My screen, correct? Can someone confirm? Yeah. No. So, OOPS concepts means it is everything is on object basis. What is mean by OOPS means object oriented programming system. So, whatever the code that we are writing inside Java, everything we'll call Java is object oriented programming, right? So, everything is in the form of object and classes. Okay. Now, so we can say this is one class. A class can contain variables and methods. Okay, both it contains a class can contains variables and methods, right? Now let's say already I have written some class with some variable and some method. Okay, now if some other class is also created, okay, let's say I'm going to create a form. Let's say this is addition addition class. It contains of just assume uh, it is taking of one method. Okay, int num1 comma int num2. Okay, return or sop of num1 plus num2. Okay, now so I'm going to write off one more class. I'm going to write off one more class with sub. Okay, just assume. Now, as part of this, I'm going to write one more method with subtraction. Okay, just assume subtraction is one more method I am writing. So it is also taking of int num1 comma int num2. Okay, num. Now it is what it is going to do. It will do of num1 minus num2. Fine. Now, so if I want to in this class, if I want in this class, I want to do of addition also. So addition program is done by, let's say, someone in the team is doing of addition program, and I'm doing of just assume subtraction program. Okay, so in my program, if I want to add the functionality of add functionality, okay, compulsory I need to add this function again in my class. Correct or not? If I want to do any of the additions, if I want to do any of addition of two numbers, then I need to use of write of one more function addition. Correct or not? Guys, someone is doing of addition program, I am doing of subtraction. If I want to use of two numbers again, then I need to add that method inside my class in the sub. Correct or not? Guys, so I don't want to do that. I want to inherit that. I don't want to rewrite the code. It will become duplicate, right? Someone has written this method, even I also did the same method. So it is becoming duplicate. I don't want to duplicate the method. I want to reuse that. I want to reuse that. That's where the inheritance concept will come into the picture. Okay. Now the inheritance out of OOPS concepts. The first one we'll discuss about inheritance. We'll discuss about inheritance. Now let's go and start it. Inheritance is called as a easy relationship. Inheritance will called as a easy relationship. Second, easy relationship. So easy means, let's say already I have class addition. Already class addition is there. If I want to use of, I want to write one more class sub. Okay. Then in this class, I want to use this functionality also without rewriting in my class. Then what we will do is we will do of extends, creating a new class. Okay. This is my new function. I want to use of this function again. Okay, from this class, okay, I'll create of one more class. We'll call it as a extends ext- extends addition. Okay, then whatever the function, whatever the this class contain, addition class contain, all that will be coming to the subclass. All that will come into subclass. We no need to rewrite that code again. Okay, now creating a, now let's go and read it. So create inheritance means creating a new classes. creating a new classes based on existing ones, based on existing class. Let's say a class that inherits from another class, a class that inherits from another class can use the methods of fields of that class. Let's say I will write one class, inheritance class, just assume I return class A, just assume. Okay, so inside this class, let's say equal to 100. Okay, now I'm writing off one more method, void m1 method, just assume, or any method. Okay, or display method, display method I'm writing. Okay, system.out.println of a class, a class display method. Okay, now I want to reuse this function. Let's say I'm going to write off one more class B, extends, extends. I'm creating class B from class A. I'm creating class B from class A means extends A. Just we need to do of extends A. Now let's class. Now what will write it? Write one more function into j equal to, just assume, 200. Okay, and write one more method, or void m2 method. Okay, .println of m2 method in class B. Okay, now fine. Now, so class A contains how many things, guys? It contains of one property and one method. Class B contains how many things? Even class B is also having one property and one method. But along with that, we are doing of some extension also. That means that A class contains only one property and one method. B class contains, actually it contains its own these two properties. Along with that, it is extending of class A also. That means whatever class A properties also will come into class B. Class A properties also will come into class B. So the B class can use of class B properties as well as class A properties. Both it can use it. Okay. Now let's read it. Now inheritance is the meaning creating a new classes based on existing classes. I am creating class B from class A. Okay, class B from class A. A class that inherits from another class. A class that inherits from another class can reuse the methods of methods and fields. Methods and fields of that class. As class B is inherited from class A, so the class B can use the class A properties also. It is inheriting. Okay. Now, in addition to that, we can write our own fields and we can write our own properties and methods also in the subclass. Okay. Class B contains along with class A properties also. It has its own properties also. Okay. Okay. And the main advantage of inheritance or easy relationship is code reusability. Code reusability. If anyone want to use of this method or this properties, then simply they can extend of class A. Okay. Then so that these two things will be available to the subclass. Okay. Now inheritance is implemented by using extends keyword. So if not this is not there, so it means that it cannot get the properties of a class into subclass. Compulsory to implement inheritance. To implement inheritance, compulsory we need to use extends keyword. Extends keyword. Extends A. So that means that A class is inheriting to B class. Okay, that's what this one. Now, some important terms. Okay, what is subclass? What is child class? Parent class? Reusability? All those things. Okay. Now let's see. First, what exactly the class contains? A class contains properties and methods. right? Class contains a set of properties and or set of properties and methods. Okay, so that is simply the definition of class. Okay, now what is subclass or child class? Subclass or child class is nothing but a class that which inherits from another class. In out of these two classes, which class is inherited from which class? Class B is inheriting from class A. Okay, now I can say B class is a subclass or child class. B class is a subclass or child. Subclass is a class which inherits from another class, which get from another class. So class B is inheriting from class A. First inherited class A and that inherits from class B. So class B is inheriting class A. So I can say class B is a subclass or child class. Now class A. What is superclass and parent class? Okay, the superclass is the class from where class is inherited the features. Okay, now class B is extending class A. Now I can say class A is now I can say class A is the parent class or super class. Parent class or super class. Now it is also known as base class or parent class. Okay, now what is mean by reusability? Reusability means yes, the name itself it is telling. So, if you want to use of anything which is from the superclass into subclass, then we are actually, if you are not extending that class, compulsory we need to rewrite them, right? Instead of rewriting it, we'll use of reusability. By extending that class, we can reuse them. Okay, as the name specifies, reusability is the mechanism which facilitates you to reuse the fields and methods of existing class when you create a new class. We are creating, just assume, let's say I'm going to create of one more class. Just assume I'm going to create of one more class, class C extends B. Okay, now one second. Yeah, now class C, I'm writing of one more method, M3 method. So now class 3 contains how many methods, guys? M3 method in C class. Okay. Now class A contains one property, one method. Class B contains its own M2 method along with class A method also, that is display method. Okay. Now in the class B it contains of two methods and two variables. Okay. Now class C contains how many methods? Already the class B contains two methods and two properties. Those all will come into class C. So class C contains three methods. One is this method, other two methods also, and two properties. Okay. Now in this case, class C is the subclass. Class B is a superclass for class C. Okay. Again, class B is subclass and class A is superclass to class B. Okay. Now so you can use the same fields and methods already defined in the previous classes. Okay. Now let's take off one example. Okay. Let's take one example. Now I've created of three classes, right? Now let's go and create class one and method. Now now so class A equal to new A. So A class contains how many methods, guys? A class contain how many methods? Only one method. So for which class we have created object now? For which class we have created object? Class A. So by using class A object, we can call only class A related methods only. A dot M1, but not A. I think it contains of display method, right? Now, So let's only no. Okay. For confusing, let me make it M1. Okay. A class M1 method. Okay. Just assume. Yeah. A class contains M1 method. Now if I'm running, just assume A class M1 method is called. Now, so B class contains how many methods? B equal to new B. How many methods B class contains? Only one? One or two? One is its own method. Yes, one is B own method. The other method is inherited from class A. Correct or not? So B class yes, B class contains its own one method, that is M2, and B class is extending A class. That means A class method also will can be used by B method. A class M1 method also can be used by B class because it is inherited from A class, right? Class B is inherited from A class. So that means that B class contains A class methods as well as B class method both. It is inheriting. Let's say, guys, one thing. Let's say your father is earning some money. Okay? You are also earning some, okay, and your child also will earn some money. So your father money will come to you, so you can use your father money as well as your money both, right? And let's say, for suppose, your son is also there, your son can use your money as well as your father money, right or not? So all the money inheriting to your sup, okay, your father money you are inheriting to your money, and your father money both are inheriting to your son. Are you getting or not? In this case, just assume A is the parent class. Okay. Now B is the child class. So while using B class methods, it is extending A class also. That means A class properties and methods I can use in B class along with B class. In B class, it contains of two properties and two methods. Clear? Now, clear or not, guys? Clear? Yeah. Now, B class contains how many methods now? It contains of two methods. Yes, exactly. Two methods. Now, let's B dot M1. See, it is directly showing B class M1, B dot M2. Both it is M2. Okay. Now, go to M2 method. Now, so through B class object, I didn't create A class object, but still I am calling A class method by using B class object only. See, for a both calling of A class method also I am using B class method. Now let's run it and comment this part. Okay, I don't want that right now. Now, yeah. So it is calling of A class method as well as B class method by using B class object. Now for suppose, so I have created B class object by using new B, and I am assigning that to A class. I am assigning that to A class. Okay. So I created B class object, and that I am assigning to A class reference. That I am assigning to A class reference. Okay. A superclass can store any of its subclass reference. Subclass reference. Which is the parent class out of all this? A class, right? For all classes, superclass is A class, right? So any of its a superclass can store any of its subclass reference. I have created B class object that I am storing in A class reference. Okay, so actually the B class object I am storing in A class, but actually A class contain only one method. Okay, through that reference I can call only the A class reference only. A class reference, A class methods only. Let's say, let's leave it. So B class means it contains of both inherited A class methods as well as B class. So in that case, no issue. Even I have created B class object that I am assigning to B class reference only B. I created B class and reference variable. I am assigning this object to the B class reference only. Right. So in that case, we can call all the methods of B class as well as its superclass. Okay. But I created B class object that I am storing to A class. Let's keep it this one. Keep dot m2. Let it be. Now I'm going to create of a1 equal to new b. New B. So what I'm doing, I created B class object that I'm assigning to A class reference variable. A class reference variable. But A class contains only M1 method. So through this reference variable, we can call only A class methods, not B class. B class methods are not available for A class reference. Okay. Now, one more. So A class reference. A class a superclass can store any of its subclass reference, right? So B is the subclass to the A class. So B class object I am storing in A class reference. But reverse is not possible. B1 equal to new A. This is not possible. So a subclass cannot store. Subclass reference cannot store its superclass reference. That is not possible. Okay. There are some points I have given. Now let's. This is directly A class object I have created, superclass. Through the superclass object, I can call only superclass method. Okay, and subclass. So B is the subclass. Through subclass method as well as this superclass methods we can call by using subclass object. Okay, but if subclass object is assigned to the superclass reference, with the superclass reference, we can call only the superclass methods, but not subclass. Even though we created B class method, but that we are assigning to A class reference. Okay, but through that A class reference, we can call only the A class methods, but not B class. Okay, now if you are creating A C, C equal to new C. So through C class method, C class object, how many methods I can call? Let's we have through C class object. How many methods? How many methods the C class contains? How many methods, guys? You should tell from this by 3, right? 3. So from this object, I can call 3 methods. 3. See, it is showing all 3 methods. M1, C dot, M2, C dot, M3. All we can call because C class is the subclass for B class and A class. So all A class and B class properties are inheriting to C class. Okay. Now let's run it. It is going to call off all the methods. This is for second one. This is for in this case. Okay, if you want, let's give some difference. Let's see it. See, first by using B class reference object, I am calling A class method as well as B class. So now next case, I am created B class object that I am assigning to A class reference variable. So if I am trying to call A1 dot M2 also, it will not be available. It will give error. So you are calling A class object through A class object, you are calling B class method. That is not possible. Okay. Now, through C class, we can call all the A class method, B class method, and C class method. Everything we can call. Now, so I'm writing A equal to A2 equal to new C. So Through this method, through this, how many methods I can call now, guys? Through this A2, how many methods I can call? I created C class object, and this I am assigning to this A class reference. A class reference. So only by using this object, how many methods I can? Only one method. That is A class method only we can call. Okay, that's what this part. Okay, now let's read. I have explained of this example. See. See here, class A, it contains one variable and one method. Class B, it contains of one more variable and one more method. I have given some explanation also. Okay. Here, class A has two members, I and method 1. Class A contains see, class A contains I and method 1. Class B also has two members, J and method 2. J and method 2. Class B is extending class A. Class B is extending class A. So therefore, members of class A, members of class A are inherited to class B. Now, class B will have two additional properties, two additional members inherited from class A along with its own properties, along with its own members. Okay. Now see, class A, class B. While creating of class B, it contains of I and J, method 1 and method 2. Okay. Now here, class A will called as, class A is called as super class. Class A is called super class. Class B is called subclass. Class B is called subclass. Hence, from this you can analyze that inheritance like this. We are extending of class A by adding additional properties to through class B. We are reusing the properties of class A in class B. Okay, that's what. So even this example also just now I have explained. This is A class. Through A class object we can call only A class method. I have created B class object and I assign it to B class object only. Now by using that we can call B class methods as well as A class methods. Okay. Now I have given below also. I created B class object that I am assigning to A class reference. Through this A class reference, we can call only A class methods, but not B class methods. It will give off undefined method for class A type. Okay. Now next, some important points. Okay, we need to remember. So whatever exactly that we have discussed, that points I have added here. So whatever the methods whatever the methods that has by parent class, by default available to child class, by default available to child class. If you are extending the super class, hence on child class reference we can call, if you are creating child class reference, if you are creating, what is that, yeah, if you are creating child class reference, through the child class reference, through child class reference, we can call both parent as well as child class methods, both we can call. If you are creating child class object, okay, create a child class object and that is assigned to child class reference only. Okay. Now, whatever methods child has, whatever methods child class has, by default not available to parent class. Let's say, so in this case, what we are doing, class A is extending class B. So that means A class properties are available to B class. Okay. But B class properties will not be available to class A. That's what the second point. Whatever the methods child has, child class has, by default not available to super class. Okay. Only super class properties are available to subclass, but not child class properties will not be, will be available to superclass. That is not possible. Okay. Now, one second. Next, third point. Parent reference. Parent class reference. Parent class reference means I have created a B class object that is assigned to parent class reference. This is parent class. This is a parent class variable. Okay, that I am assigning to parent class reference. Next. So parent class reference can be used to hold child class object. We can use parent class reference to hold child class object. But using that reference, superclass reference, we can't call child class specific methods. Okay, but we can call the methods present in only superclass. So in this, the B class object is created that we are assigning to superclass reference. Through this reference, we can call only superclass methods or A class methods, but not B class methods. That's what this point meaning. Okay. Second. Next. Parent class reference. Parent class reference. Parent reference or parent class reference can be used to hold child class object. Okay. But child class reference cannot be used to hold parent class object. Okay. Now, in this case, what we are doing here, child class object created that we are assigning to parent class. So A class is parent class to B, right? So this is possible, but reverse is not possible. A superclass cannot store, okay? Subclass cannot store its superclass variables. Now let's. So this is subclass, right? Child class. This is superclass. Superclass can store any of its subclass variable, okay, object. But reverse is not possible. See, C1 equal to new A. Okay, what I am doing, I created object of A class. That object I am storing in C class reference. C is the child class. Okay, that is not possible. That's what the meaning of this one. Parent class reference can be used to hold only child class object. Parent class reference can be used to hold child class object. Okay, but child class reference cannot hold, cannot use to hold parent class object. This is not possible. Okay, it will give compilation error. That's what the meaning of. That's what the meaning of the last point. Okay, now. Now up to, is it clear guys, these 4 points and how the methods are calling? So which class reference we can use of which super class reference like that? Is it clear all these parts or you want me to repeat any part? It is very important guys. So where it is not understood, so just tell me, I'll repeat it again that part. Is it clear? If clear, I'll move to the continuation. Guys, you want me to repeat or what? Okay. Now, till now, till now, what we have written variable and methods, okay, but not any constructor, static blocks, non-static blocks is not added, right or not? So what is static block, what is non-static block, that we will discuss. Okay, now let's mm, yeah. Now, a class can contain. So, along with this, this I will call it as a ln. It is of non-static block, non-static block. Okay. So only open bracket and a closed bracket is there. It is there in the class means then we can treat it as a non-static block. Okay, non-static block. Let's say if I'm adding static, okay, open bracket and closed bracket means this will call it as a static block. Static block. Static block. Okay. Variable is there, methods is that we have already discussed. Now static block, non-static block, and I will add up one constructor also. Okay, what is mean by constructor means constructor name must be same as class name. Okay, constructor name must be same as class name, and if only open bracket and close bracket without any parameters means then we'll call it as a default constructor or default constructor is the or use it constructor of class A. Okay. Now in this class contains static method, static block, non-static block, and constructors also. Okay. So while inheriting now, from the superclass, this constructor and static block, non-static block, all this will not be inherited. Only the properties of a class. Apart from this, rest of them will inherited to subclass. Const- these will be executed at the time of object creation. Okay, static block, non-static block, constructor will be executed at the time of object creation. Object creation means like whenever we are using of this one new C constructor is there, right? That time internally all these things will execute. Now let's go and test it. Now, so class A contains how many things? Class A contains of how many? So one property, one variable, one method, one constructor, one non-static block, and one static block. Right? So from this we should understood now. So when these things will execute, okay, these will not inherit to subclass, but when this will execute means at the time of object creation. Let's show you that. Let's class test. Yeah, now if I'm creating of B class, okay, let's see a equal to new A. Just assume I didn't call any method right now or not, so just created object, correct? A equal to new A, but I didn't call any variable or any method, but internally it will call static method, static block, non-static block, and constructor. What is called? First it is called static block. That is the order, guys. First it will execute of static block. Next it will execute of non-static block. After that it will execute of constructor. After that it will execute of so maybe you people might think like, so yes, in this order is there, static block is there first, next to non-static block, next to constructor is there. Maybe in the same order it is going to execute. No, don't think that like that. So if I'm keeping in top also, okay, it doesn't matter where it is. So it will always search for, first it will search for static blocks. If static block is there, it will execute static block. After that, it will come to non-static block. After that, it will come to constructor. Now let's rerun it again. So it doesn't matter how you are writing. The flow is first which blocks will execute, guys? Static blocks will execute. First will be executed by static block. Next will be executed by non-static block. After that, constructor will execute. Okay. Now, is it clear, guys? These will not be, let's say, for example, okay. These are inheriting to subclass, right? Let's say I'm creating of a class B object internally. Internally, it will call class A constructor, static block, non-static block, all those things. So before, whenever we are, let's say, class B equal to new B. Okay. So whenever we are creating class B object. So internally it will call it's a superclass constructor, superclass default constructor, guys. Superclass default constructor it will call. So if that is not there, then it will call default constructor which is created by constructor. If we are adding, then that constructor will execute. Okay. Now if that is not there, then automatically default constructor will execute. Now let's see, even if I'm creating B class object also, all A class static variable, the static block, non-static block, constructor, all will execute. Now let's see. See, even though if I created of a B class object also, it is going to create. Now how exactly it is creating means, now let's take up some. Now, so whenever it is creating of a B class object, okay, whenever it is creating B class object, so first, is there any superclass for B class? It will check. Is there any? So first it will check inside the constructor. Do you have any default constructor inside B class? No. If it is not there, internally compiler will add super add super like this by default. If if this code we are not adding, if this code not there means, then internally compiler will add super also. If that is compulsory to call superclass method. What is the superclass? Superclass is A class. So A class method to call. See, automatically it is calling constructor. So if I'm control and superclass, see, just I'm keeping control and click on that. Automatically it is coming. It's a superclass constructor. Let's say for example, if I'm created one more constructor here, okay? See, super. What is the superclass for the C class? What is the superclass for C class, guys? C class, right? So if I'm control and click on super, automatically it will go to superclass constructor. Now let's see. Is it going or not? See cursor, it is automatically selected, guys. If I am control super, if I am clicking, automatically it is selecting this one. So that means B class constructor automatically it will call that. Okay. Even though if you are not adding the statement, by default compiler will add as a first statement, as a first statement in the constructor. Even though if you are adding something, even though let's say system.out.println B class constructor. Okay. Okay. So even though it is like this, after compilation, okay, after compiling of this class, internally compiler will add super. Okay, as a first statement, compulsory this should be there. Okay, if we are not adding, compiler will add it. Okay, here automatically to call its superclass constructor to finish its execution to create object of class C, compulsory has to create superclass object first. Okay, what is the superclass of C? B class. Okay, to create object of class B, internally it will create A class object. B class superclass, B class parent class for B class is A class. So first it will create A class object. So what is the superclass for A class? Object class. What is the superclass for A class? If the class is not extending any class means, internally it will extend of object class. So internally it will call of object class again. Super. So that means, it will call of object class. See, automatically it came to object class, right? So that means that if I am where see, if I'm click on this one, it is going to A class. So what is the superclass to A class? Nothing is there here. So if you are not mentioning anything means, automatically it is extending the object class. If I'm clicking, it will go to automatically object class constructor. Object class default constructor will execute. So first it will create a object of object class first. Okay, now Let's assume control Z. C C equal to new C. So inside C class constructor, inside C class constructor. So if we are not adding this statement, if we are not adding this statement, then automatically compiler will add. Okay. At the time of executing this constructor, first statement is super. So it will go to its super class. It will go to its super class default constructor. So it will create object for internally it is of B class. It is of B class. Internally B class constructor will execute. Okay. Inside B class constructor, inside B class constructor we have super again. Okay. Then internally it will execute of A class constructor. Again it will create of A class here. Okay, it is of A class. A class constructor contains A class constructor contains super again it contains of super. So super class to A class is object class. Super class to A class is object class. So this is of first object class. Ob JE ob O equal to new big object new. First it will create object for object class. First it will create object for object class. Once object class is completed, then the first statement is executed of A class. Then the statement will execute. After the statement is executed, then B class constructor will, sorry, A class constructor is executed. So after that A class object will create. So from where we are calling A class constructor? From B class constructor, right? So once it is completed, A class object will finish internally. Now first statement is this will print. Next, so from where we are calling this constructor? From B class constructor. From B class constructor. So once this is completed, then B class the statement will execute, and then it will finish off its execution of B class. Okay, and after from where we are calling this B class constructor? From C class. Okay, now it will come to C class again back. So it will, this line is completed, and next it will execute of C class constructor, and it will create of C class object, and it will assign to this reference variable. Okay, see. So internally it will call of multiple things. Let's see. See how many things it is called. First it is called of static block, non-static block, constructor of A, constructor of B. Why it is constructor of B again? Maybe message wrong. Yeah, constructor of C. So to create a C class object, internally it will create B class object as well as A class object. Both it will create. Okay, that is the flow, guys, internally. But that we can't say. If you want, we can debug also. Let me debug if you want. Let me debug it. Want debug it. Now let's. I created of C class object, guys. I didn't call any method. Okay, just the object is created. Let's see how many classes it will execute. Run as. See, first static blocks will execute. That is fine. Okay. Now, which one is executing? Again, it is going to. It is went to from here to. It went. If you want, not clear. Let me restart again. Yeah. Debug as. Now we are in C class. We are creating of C class object, right? C class constructor is started executing. Okay, internally in which line right now we are? 34, line number 34. So line number 34 is calling. Line number 34 will call line number again B class constructor. Let's see. Just click on F6. So where it went? B class constructor. As a B class constructor, the first statement is super is there. Again, what is the super class of B class? A class. So it will go to again. First it will execute of this part. Okay. Now click on F6 or see it is coming to A class. From this A class, it will go to again object class. Okay, it will go to object class. So 1 second. If object, okay, it will execute of object class constructor, guys. It will execute of object of constructor class. If you want, we can keep some cursor point here. Let's try if it is. Yeah, that is maybe it is not. It is a dark class file, right? It is not going. So once that is completed, once this is completed, then it is going to non-static block. Only superclass constructor is done. Sorry, object class. After that, non-static blocks will execute. Still, it is not finished, guys. Still, this is not finished. See, it is not printed. Constructor of A is not printed. Only static block is printed. After that, non-static block will finish. After that, this variable initialization, no issue. Next, see, after that only the statement of this one is executing. Okay, in this statement, lot of things will happen internally. Okay, now after this, it will come back to B class. See, it is coming back to B class, non-static variables, and this is executing. And it will come back to C class again, C class variable. So see, it is executing of. So from this, you should understand again. It is coming back to lost. Okay. Now from this, you should understood whenever you are creating any subclass, first internally it will create of it's a superclass object. Internally, it will create of it's a superclass object. That's what the flow. Okay. Now, see if you want, read it. Constructors and static initialization block and instance and one more is IIB means instance initialization block of superclass will not be inherited to its subclass. Okay, constructor static initialization block, non-static initialization block. This will not be inherited to subclass. They will be executed while creating of object of a subclass. Just now what we did. Okay, now is it clear, guys? Object creation is maybe I will explain it tomorrow once again the flow, this one. So first it will create of internally, it will point to this one. Okay, again it is depending on this one. Internally it is depending on this one. Once object of object class is finished, then it will come back to A class, and from A class is if everything is finished, the constructor, then it will come back to B class. If everything is finished B class, then it will come back to C class. Okay. Now, so if the class contains, if the class does not contains, so default constructor. If class does not contain a default constructor, let's int I, hint I, then it will give off error. So the default constructor can call only default constructor. If superclass does not having any default constructor, if it is a parameterized constructor, there means then compiler will not create automatically the default constructor. We must and should call that constructor. We must and should add that constructor. Okay. Again, we must and should add, otherwise it will give off error. Okay, let's say if any one of the class contains parameterized class, then the flow will stop again. It will cause of some errors. To call that default constructor compulsory, we should manually explicitly add that default constructor, or we need to call this parameterized constructor by passing. Okay, by passing parameter. Okay, here it is expecting some default constructor is not there in the A class. So compulsory we need to pass. It is of type is int. So just to pass some value. Then it will identify that. Okay. So if we are passing two parameters, if we are passing two parameters, B class constructor is searching for a two parameterized constructor in the A class, but we have only one parameterized constructor. So then in that case we need to call off int B, something int J. Then it will call off immediate superclass constructor which contains of two parameters. Internally it will call off default constructor again. No issue. Okay. If anywhere is default constructor is missing, means we are adding parameterized constructor, then it is explicitly we need to call that constructor. Now let's say for example, if this is not there, okay, if this is not there, okay. Now, even though all these are not there also, no issue. Okay. Internally, it is generating, the compiler will generate all this code. Okay. Compiler will generate all this code. If any one class having some constructor, if any one class is having any some default, not default constructor, any parameterized constructor is there, means then compulsory it is the developer responsibility to call that. It is a developer responsibility compulsory to call this. We need to add of default constructor, and through that we need to call this method. Through that we need to call this constructor, sorry, not method, constructor. Okay. So we can call this constructor superclass constructor by using only super keyword. By using super keyword. Let's say if I want to call, I have one more parameterized constructor. Let's say int j. Okay, int j. I have parameterized constructor is there and default constructor is there. Let's say internally I want to, when I am calling this constructor, when I am calling this constructor, internally it will call off default constructor, right? So in the default constructor, if I am calling, if I want to call this constructor, the same class, other parameterized constructor, then instead of super, we need to use this. So then this will call this parameterized constructor. This will call the superclass constructor. Let's A class ST. Now let's debug it. Let's debug it. Now all flow is moved. Let me give off the breakpoints is not there. That is the reason it is going. Okay. Now, now let's run it. See. So B class default constructor is called from this place. Okay. Now the B class constructor again, this will call, instead of super class it will call this constructor. Instead of that it will call this constructor, and from this it will go to A class. Now if you want, just F6, it will go line by line execution, guys. See, it is calling same class another constructor. From this it will go to A class constructor. From this A class constructor, it will execute it. Non-static block. So there is nothing is there in that. Okay. Here. Now after this next constructor, yeah, A class constructor, and then it will come to B class default constructor, parameterized constructor. Okay, and again it will go back to this one. See, it is going back to default constructor. From this again it will go back to C class default constructor. Okay, see, this is the flow, guys. Object creation flow. Okay, this is you should be careful. If you are not understanding, I'll explain it again if required. Okay, the flow of object creation. Okay, only up to this only it is finished. Okay, guys, I think today is enough. Just please go through this again. Okay, again tomorrow the object creation will revise it for some time and then we'll continue the class. Okay, is it okay, guys? So, what object creation flow, internal flow is very important, guys. So, just now what I explained is this is the internal flow. Okay, but you will see in the front only C equal to C equal to new C. But internally it will create these many things. Internally it will create of these many things. It will do that. All this will be done by internally. Okay, whenever you are creating subclass object, all its superclass objects will create first and then it will create of subclass object. The last work will be creation of subclass object. Before creating the subclass object, it will create all its superclass object and it will finish, then only it will come to subclass. Okay, this is the internal flow. Okay, again tomorrow we'll continue that, and object creation I will explain it again tomorrow, and then we'll go for next continuation for the OOPS concepts. Okay, that's what for today's class, guys. We'll meet again tomorrow. Thank you. I'll share the document.